Hello, everybody. It's been a while. I apologize up front. I want to say that it's just been busy. And while I had good intentions on a Monday to do a regular peaceful stream, I'm not sure that that's always the best day. I might actually, um, I'm giving a little bit of head of what we're going to talk about today. Oops. Well, we'll do this. You can click to subscribe or click notification if you're interested. My website, you can reach out to me at eric@ericbolin.net. That's a good website. As we've been talking about keeping perspective, I think every day there's something that points to this principle of keeping perspective. Because in keeping perspective, that's what's going to cause us to feel like we can, anxious or not, depressed or not, and when we're fearful, we tend to go towards the extremes. We tend to go towards all or nothing thinking. It works well if you're running from a bear. You're not there to analyze the bear. You're either going to shoot it or run like the Dickens. And just to be clear, when we're anxious, the front part of our brain loses blood. It goes to the middle part, the core. Actually, if this was the limbic system, it's a mouse here. That's the limbic, and it's fight or flight. It's very binary. It's not analog. Where the front part is more analog. And so keeping calm and keeping perspective. And that's why good sleep is really important. Good nutrition is important. There's a little call out I want to do for a product. I thought I would do this. I'm not making money by selling essential oils or anything, but I wanted to say this because I think it's important to share. There is a company I like called Swiss Aromatics. They are based in California, Northern California. I've been using essential oils for years, having good success. We use them all the time. And I'm not trying to put down other companies, but I found this company, there's no multi-level part to it. It's very simple, high quality oils that are really useful. And I use something called Deep Sleep Magic. It works so well consistently for me, and I sleep pretty okay anyway, but if I put this roll on I am so dead to the world. It smells a little bit funny because of the hops. So I have the Deep Sleep Extra, which has hops in it, so I smell kind of like sour beer. My wife doesn't particularly care for it, but I will say we sleep really sound. And so I'll put a link in the description there. I would highly recommend them. Their prices are so reasonable. The company, I can call them and they educate me. In fact, I purchased even a educational training on how to do essential oil therapy. I was never going to be a specialist, but I just felt it would be good. And I got a bunch of oils with it. And it was a larger amount of money, but the Kurt, I'll just say Kurt, who works there, is a scientist. Um, it's biochemistry. And I have the books that show the biochemistry of all this things that help with cancer and anxiety and why they work. Um, so that's my, and any of their products, like I'll say, I can't quote the prices, but like I could spend a lot of money, like $42 on a bottle of neroli, really sedating, really helpful. And there I'll find it a lot lower. They will talk about chamomile, which is very useful in calming the nerves. And occasionally I see more and more research showing that it really not is just good for the stomach, say like with teas, like chamomile tea, but it's actually good for our whole nervous system. So of course, in essential oils, if you use chamomile in the essential oil, it's just very powerful. So I would highly recommend them. I wanted to also thank my wife, who, it was a rough day. I mean, things are crazy here. It's just crazy. But she brings me a basket of food, a little candle. I don't see if you, let's go where it's near. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little flickering candle there. Maybe you can see it flicker there. What's nice about that is it shows me I'm loved. It shows me that a little bit of help goes a long way. It brings perspective. Like we may share from the Bible tonight later, which for me brings perspective. It's you I like. There's these little cards that my wife and I, she shares them with me. They're Mr. Rogers cards, in fact. I have them lined up here. Let's make this most of this beautiful day. Again, it's putting something good in to help. And we'll later talk about what are those simple things that bring us, I don't like the word pleasure, but bring us peace. There's so much talk about things that we do that may not be the healthiest, like would a pumpkin spice donut bring me peace? Not real peace. It's more on the pleasurable side. And while it may seem to calm something down for a minute, then what? Do I want extra weight, which ultimately doesn't work, or blood sugar problems? Watching, I was going to say, voluminous amounts of YouTube videos to educate me more on the things in the world. Is that really comforting me, or is it kind of a fake comfort? I think it's a fake comfort in that it makes us think that if I'm in the know, I can be in control. And I just don't buy that. I think that in my life, as I back away from such things, I just feel happier. I'm more and more convinced that as much as pornography tantalizes people's sexuality and lust, which is one of the passions, fear, and watching all these videos that are fear driven, even if it seems so scientific, but it's really fear oriented. Either way, like to get the vaccine, to not get the vaccine, if we're driven by fear, I don't think that's as healthy as going by based on just what our senses best thinking and prayer. I'll post a video, a link to a video by a gentleman who talks about this and how we're making medical decisions based on fear. And I guess I'll be bold enough to say that actually the medical community is complicit in this. We can't drive by our neighborhood without them advertising for me to get the shingles vaccine, or my dear doctor, who I really like, he's a really good doctor. But as I was talking about this a couple of years ago, about he wanted me to get the Shingrix, I said, well, I don't like to really base things on fear, and I want to know the science of it. He says, look, I've seen someone who was blind in their eye from a shingle. Okay. And then within days, I heard 1 in 3 people get shingles. Okay, then I should be able to go 1, 2, 3, you have shingles. 1, 2, 3, you have shingles. 1, 2, 3, have shingles. Now, within a month, 2 people I know got the shingles. So, but I want to look at the science. So I told him, I said, look, that first vaccine, Zostavax, and I'm not sure on the exact stats, I'll be honest here, but it was enough to concern me. I kept track. The Zostavax was effective only, I think, 13 to 18%. Okay. And it gave people the shingles 50% of the time. These are just facts. So this was 2 years ago we talked about. I said, so I'm going to wait on this. I'm going to wait on what the the research rolls out with the Shingrix. He says, well, we know this is much better. I did some research. It looks like the FDA passed it through. Not only did they just pass it, they actually recommended it over something else. I have some healthy skepticism about the FDA, just from years of not being really balanced. Anyway, then I go to try to research. I guess this is worth sharing the story. I go to a pharmacist who I have been to. I asked, I thank you for your time. I say, I'm just asking, tell me about the Shingrix, because it's $500 in 2 doses. And I said, is there any downside? Is there anything showing how long it's been out? He says, it can do no damage, no problems whatsoever, nothing. I challenged him. I said, no, wait a minute. I've taken pharmacy school, and I didn't tell him this, but one thing we're always trained is there's always a side effect to every medication. There is. It's why it's called a side effect. It's an unwanted effect. I said, you're going to have me sign a form that gives some indications of when not to get this vaccine, Guillain-Barré, and have I allergic to eggs? And then he got mad and walked off. It's like, my gosh, this is just weird. This is way before the coronavirus. So you can only imagine my hesitation and waiting a bit for the word we can't say on the internet now. That helps things. But I will say that I did my own prayer, my own research, tried to not figure things out, but just really ask God, what do you want me to do? And then also look at the research. So I decided what I needed to do for myself. And so on that note, I think it's important to recognize that fears and anxiety could be driving us in ways we don't realize. And I'm trying to be more led by, God versus my fears. Oh, and the point I was going to make is it's almost like some of this stuff is like fear porn. I've been making jokes about gluttony. Well, not gluttony, I should make jokes about it, but the gluttony is a serious thing. And we've gotten so out of hand with food that while countries are starving to death, we actually have people watching food preparation shows and who can make this food out of these ingredients. And now we have little kids making it and things that are delectable. And we then find the most delectable treat in the world, and then you win $100,000. It's like, oh, and I watch them. They're interesting. But I'm thinking, what am I doing? Like, why? Like, have I really gotten that off that I'm going to watch a show about food? So you can pick almost any passion and see that there's a whole media presentation towards that. I think our pride is appealed to. We're going to know more information. My gosh, we know so much information. I don't need to know anymore. And I'm not sure that's going to stop me from, studying a little bit more. Slop, the media watching in and of itself has a slop aspect that I think that I'm actually doing something when I'm watching someone else remodel their house or someone else do their garden or someone else do their cooking. You see, do I actually put any of this into action? So there's a real strange vicarious aspect to this. And then anger, all you have to do is you can watch the media of your choice so that you can have a good dose of, I'm so mad at the world, or angry. So as we're focused on fear, just ask yourself, how much is what I watch causing me fear, or what I read? So, getting into our topic, I wanted to talk about the F's of anxiety. I learned this first from a Dr. Howard Schubner, who I really like his work. I really appreciate him. He's not only helped me professionally, but also personally. He's part of a group of people who focus and help people with chronic pain. And he's somewhat of a pioneer in helping people unlearn their pain. Hold on, I'm going to get a book. So, Unlearn Your Pain. He wrote a book called Unlearn Your Anxiety and Depression. It's almost the same book, okay? Anyway, he talks about the 5 F's. I just started adding more F's because I noticed that I like words, I like puns, and so I first learned this in the context of if you have chronic pain, which would be a backache, TMJ, neck pain, shoulder pain, hand pain, plantar fasciitis, irritable bowel, irritable bladder, dizziness, fatigue, tinnitus, and anything else that could be stress related. These are the F's to try to avoid. So in reality, it's kind of the F's of anxiety and chronic pain symptoms, or chronic symptoms. So the first one is don't get fearful, okay? But if you're already frightened, that seems like, how do you do that? So you could skip that one. But with fear, with pain, if you start getting fearful, it actually helps you lock into it to where you're just more over focused on it, which is another F. Staying calm is really important. So instead of trying to fight, well, I might as well go, don't fight it. Trying to fight the pain or trying to fight the fear makes it worse. So staying calm, keeping perspective. In fact, I feel like I'm going to just talk about all of them and then we'll float around. Don't focus on it. Well, that's easy to do when you're in pain, or if you're having a panic attack, if you're having anxiety or worry. Isn't that what we're doing? We're focused on it. So some of you could be frustrated with that, which is another F. I don't have it listed here. But if you get frustrated with the whole process of healing, it makes it worse. In fact, I'm going to add it right now. Frustrated. Yeah, how easy it is. I can just show it now. Don't get frustrated with them. Which the opposite is patience. Okay. So don't focus on it. Try not to fix it. If you try to fix it, like quick, go get an ointment from my back. Quick, I'll do a stretch. Quick, I'm going to do something to fix my neck. The right chair, everything, that's actually trying to control it, which makes it worse because then we're focused on it. In essence, you just feel it. And fixate is kind of like focus on it, okay? Don't figure it out. That's another big one that anxiety sufferers suffer from, is I'm going to figure out what caused the anxiety. Was it this or that, or the herb I took, or the caffeine, or I went and talked to the family, or I didn't go on my walk, or with pain, I sat in the wrong chair. I have a plane trip coming up. I'm worried about that. Now, some of these may actually be part of the solution, but it's rarely a one thing causes this. And our brains in that binary state, all or nothing, limbic starts to go, it was this, it was going to, I won't say the name of the store, but because I don't want the store to be thinking I'm putting them down, but there was a person I worked with that said, when I went to blank, I had the worst panic attack in all my life, so I'm not going to that store anymore. There's no logical reason. I actually had someone share with me, wow, I'm not putting anybody down by sharing this, but it's just classic. They took a medication to help fix something, and within a couple of hours, they got worse. It could be the medicine, but it could be a nocebo effect that they're so frightened. I'm playing with F's today, that we can't help but focus on our symptoms, and then we start to wonder and see if I'm fighting it by trying to take something to make it go away. And then I focus, well, is it getting better? And then I'm afraid that it's not getting better. And so I start to figure it out. Oh my gosh, maybe it's this I took. Okay. See how this works? We're just running around, and all those F's are part of the same problem, which is trying to be in control. All of those are a sense of being in control by trying to figure it out, focus on it, fight it, be frustrated with it because it's still there. Okay. So what is the solution? Well, it's okay to feel it. Really, it is. It's people might just go, well, I'm turning this channel off right now. I can empathize. Like, are you out of your mind? The pain's so excruciating. You're telling me that I should just feel it? It's paradoxical, and I'm talking chronic pain now. When we help people through a relaxation exercise that are in chronic pain, and not even pain, like say like they have pain from cancer, I've been called in to help people with this. If I just start talking about calm, peaceful, all this stuff, there's no connection there. So I might use a phrase like, wow, you must be in an incredible amount of pain right now. Now, I'm not going to stay there, but what it does do is help me understand, help them understand that I understand, even though I don't understand, but it's using the right words. And they might go, oh my gosh, that's right, I am in incredible pain. And if I said, I wonder what it would be like to have just 10% less pain. Well, to answer the question, you end up going into a state of 10% less pain. Not trying to get rid of all of it, but just the baby step towards feeling better. And what are we focusing on? It reducing, or it shifting, or it being slightly different. What happens is it's that over rigid, fixated, I can't stop thinking about it that causes the problem. So it's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel it. And if you accept that, yep, my back hurts. Yep, I'm afraid to bend down and pick up something. Or yep, I'm having a panic attack. Or yep, I feel so sad about what happened to my parent. Or I feel so scared about what I just saw in the news. Or I'm not sure what's going to happen with my job. Or I'm not sure if, what's going on. On one hand, we'll talk about dwelling on things, but it's okay to feel the feelings. I think if we don't feel the feelings, we're going to have worse problems than trying to stuff our feelings. And at worst, it leads to drugs, alcohol, addictions, or it leads to physical symptoms that are unexplainable or unhelped by medicine, or physical therapy, or everything else under the sun that's physical. But if we feel the feelings and realize they're temporary, and they could move us to go to God or to grieve or to make a change, it's okay to feel them. We're not led by them, but it's okay to feel them. I could almost guarantee you, two things will happen. For 90% of you, you'll start to actually feel better. How many of us have actually felt better after a good cry? How many of us have felt better actually after going on a roller coaster ride, and we feel this horrible anxiety all the way up, and we come all the way down, and we get off the little contraption, and then we kiss the ground. We feel so much better because, well, we felt anxious and we let it. And I don't like those things, as you can probably tell. But yeah, just feel the feelings and acknowledge that you have the feelings, and the anxiety will get better. I think chronic anxiety is from people trying to avoid feeling. And we'll talk maybe in other episodes, but avoid feeling angry or avoid feeling grief. Those, or guilt, those three can be underneath what appears to be anxiety. And it's really just anxiety is a cover for trying to, it's like a cover, like I'm repressing it down, and then it makes me feel out of control. Feeling something is out of control. And we may feel really out of control if we're not used to feeling them. That's why having a coach or a practitioner of something that helps you with, or a therapist can be useful, or a good friend, or a support group, or by yourself. But eventually you get used to feeling the feelings. Okay. So the reason I like the 5 Fs or the 6 Fs or the 7 Fs, and I started making up all these Fs. Because they're easy to remember. And hopefully they will go with you throughout the day to go, am I fixating on this? What can I do to not fixate on this? Am I trying to fix this? I'm probably trying to fix this. So, Eric, don't fix this. Or am I over focusing on this? Yes. So open my focus. Think of something else. Do something you really enjoy doing. Change the subject. Really important to do that. And it's a practice. It's really a practice you'll do over and over and over and over and over. This is not a, I tried it once and it didn't work. Okay. You do it over and over. It's like going to the gym one time and expecting results. It doesn't work that way. Now, some of you might actually get results. Some of you, like I said, 90% may get relief, but there's 10% that may get actually worse. They may go, this is the worst advice. I tried to do this and I got worse. Here's the deal. It's still good advice. If things get worse initially, it means you're on the right track. You're hitting a spot, especially with pain. If you start to have your pain increase and all you did was try to not over focus or try to fixate it or figure it out, you let go, that pain, or if there's a spiritual force trying to poke you with a stick to make you worse, that's just trying to get you off track. Okay. Same thing with anxiety. If you let go of control and you go, this is not good, I'm frightened, it's going to get worse. That's why you're stuck, is because we won't let go of control. Okay. Think about it with all kinds of things. If a dental visit, oh gee, if we over focus on that, we fight it, it's going to get worse. If we get some medical diagnosis we just don't like, if I try to over focus on that, the symptoms, I can feel myself getting sicker, or try to figure out, how did I get this? A little bit of it is okay, but it's this over focus, over fighting, and just feel it. Okay. If I should check to see, I gave you guys no warning, so I just jumped in. I do see we may have a few viewers. So part 2, 3 steps to dealing with thoughts. And this really, I've already shared before, but I've revamped it a little bit. Thoughts that come to you, assaultive thoughts, fearful thoughts, or pain symptoms, something that jabs at you or scares you or anything. The first step is to acknowledge that you actually have the thought. Now you would think, well, of course I have the thought. I'm feeling it, or I'm thinking it right now. What I mean by identify that you have it is you have to identify it by stepping outside the thought. Okay? If I I used the virus or the coronavirus or the vaccine too many times, but I'm going to try to think of something else. Say, like, I have a disturbing thought by something I see on the internet that really caused me to worry about the future. Now that's vague, but I think you can pick what that would be. If it's like I grabbed it off the internet channel, which I'm streaming on right now. I put it on and wear it, and I'm already feeling the effects of that, and I don't even know that I put it on. I don't even know I've accepted it. I just let it go right in to me and right into my heart. And the goal is to go, no, 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 stop. I'm only feeling frightened because I've accepted this thought. So you step outside yourself. You step aside and go, okay, Eric had this information. It took his breath away. Now I have the choice to think about this more and more and more, even though if it's true. I mean, it could be very well true. Like, for instance, I can share this. If you want to scare yourself, just go look at what's happening in Australia. I mean, that doesn't look like a happy story. In fact, I shared with a client today, and it makes me go, why should I share that? Is that going to help him any? And now he has something to go look at to terrify him. But I think the point I'm making is that if it's not one thing, we're going to be terrified by something else. I have the choice to accept that as reality or not. I think it's real. I don't think it's fake news. But the next level is I have a choice to decide whether I want to dwell on it or not, to hold on to it, to try to figure it out or to focus on it. And I think it's really important to jump outside one's thoughts to get perspective. Because, for instance, I could avoid media, which I did for, I think, 2 or 3 months. We felt great. We just decided as a family, we feel so much happier not doing this. But then we felt like things were in the world. We wanted to see it again. And sure enough, my feelings, fears, and anxiety and depression, I mean, I'm maybe not clinical. Some days I wonder. But if I just think on those things, I'm going to not feel so good. If I just want to ignore it and focus on all this happy stuff, what are happy stuff? Let's take a side note here. I'm jumping ahead, but I think it's important to contrast it. If I go outside and find any kind of flowers, if I find woods, a beautiful sunshiny day, look for some act of kindness that someone's doing. And if I look for it, I may find it. It may be someone helping an older person inside their getting into a store, or it could be as simple as, wow, they have a sale on this snack bar I like, or little candles that are just really beautiful. Or, and I use this a lot to calm people down, like maybe the texture of a fabric, or there's a flannel shirt that's soft. I tend to be a knitter and spinner, and so that takes me to another world where I'm just focused on knitting and spinning and praying, and I'm happy. It's kind of my happy place. Going on a walk and just walk and feel the sensation of walking, and I can still breathe clean air, being thankful that there's times when the air isn't so clean and to wear a mask. And you have to be careful with this because food can be comforting, but enjoying food, but not enjoying it too much. Okay. Music, turning on music that I can watch, and that is on the internet. I can feel in a very good mood watching Andre Rieu. He's a Dutch orchestra leader. I have yet to listen to any of his concerts. I just don't feel, or I do feel like I'm in such a good mood, especially if the song gets stuck in my mind. I can go to church. I like the church people. There's beautiful things to see at church. I can think about my daughter's and son-in-law's dog, who's very happy all the time. He's bouncy wouncy, and it totally changes the state. Thinking of things on TV where it involves dogs or happy episodes and seeing people overcome obstacles and inspirational videos. Like before some of the drama in the world, I knew it was there, but I would watch inspirational videos. By the way, those inspirational videos still work. That I have yet to see an inspirational video that still the principles aren't just the sound as they were back then, that can be sound today. Meaning it's people helping people. It's people looking for kindness, people's lives being transformed. Oh, I can think of the people I work with. I would quit if I didn't see people get better. I see people with struggles with anxiety and depression, and they make progress if they follow the steps. People that were on serious drugs and legal problems and relational problems. And a lot of the people are better before they even come here. Like I tell them, well, this is good news. Look at all that you've accomplished already. And they're beaming. I mean, I can get teary-eyed and they kind of get teary-eyed. No, that's fun for me to tell people what they've done well. Because I'm not sure that they're used to hearing it from someone. And also, I don't think we're good at telling ourselves what we've done well. Does that make me feel better? Yes. Now, even if we're going to be bombed tonight, by the way, if we were to be bombed tonight, what am I going to do? Am I going to say, well, I'm going to wait till we get bombed? I'm getting something from C.S. Lewis, which I think is going to be an important quote. Or am I going to do what I know to do that makes me feel better? Why not do things to cheer people up? So, in fact, I think it's important to do this now. I'm going to share the screen. Okay. I'm going to share the screen and hope in such a way that gets us to that. Okay. I'm going to keep talking while I close some things out. This is kind of interesting. I'm going to add it in. See, again, keep on trying. Keep on trying. It makes me think of that little movie. Okay. I'm going to go here. Maybe that this is what it is. Here it is. Hopefully you're seeing what I'm seeing. There. Okay. I'm going to read this. This is Living in an Atomic Age, and written by C.S. Lewis. And anybody who knows C.S. Lewis, he was the writer of the children's classic Chronicles of Narnia. He also wrote adult books. He was on the British radio helping people during difficult times. So I'm going to read this here. In one way, we think a great deal too much of the atomic bomb. Boy, I'm going to try not to cut in too much, but what I like already is we think too much or to think a great deal too much of blank. You fill in the blank, okay? So in one way, we think a great deal too much of the atomic bomb. How are we to live in an atomic age? I'm tempted to reply, why, as you would have lived in the 16th century, when the plague visited London almost every year, or as you would have lived in a Viking age when raiders from Scandinavia might land and cut your throat at night, or indeed as you are already living in an age of cancer, an age of syphilis, an age of paralysis, an age of air raids, an age of railway accidents, an age of motor accidents. In other words, do not let us begin by exaggerating the novelty of our situation. I'll read that again. In other words, do not let us begin by exaggerating the novelty of our, and I'll add the word current situation. Believe me, dear sir or madam, you and all whom you love were already sentenced to death before the atomic bomb was invented. It is perfectly ridiculous to go about whimpering and drawing long faces because the scientists have added one more chance of painful and premature death to a world which already bristled with such chances, in which death itself was not a chance at all, but a certainty. So well written. If we are all going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let that bomb, when it comes, find us doing sensible and human things: praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They may break our bodies. A microbe can do that, but they need not dominate our minds. What the atomic bomb has already done, what an atomic bomb has really done to us is remind us forcibly of the sort of world we're living in which during the prosperous period before we were beginning to forget. And this reminder, so far as it goes, a good thing. We have been waked from a petty dream, and now we begin to talk about realities. It is our business to live by our own law, not by fears. To follow, in private or in public life, the law of love and temperance, even when they seem to be suicidal, and not the law of competition and grab, even when they seem to be necessary for our own survival. For it is part of our spiritual law never to put survival first, not even the survival of our species. We must resolutely train ourselves to feel that the survival of man on this earth, much more of our own nation or culture or class, is not worth having unless it can be had by honorable and merciful means. I'm going to read that. We must resolutely train ourselves to feel that survival of man on this earth, much more of our own nation or culture or class, is not worth having unless it can be had by honorable and merciful means. Nothing is more likely to destroy a species or a nation than a determination to survive at all costs. Those who care for something else more than civilization, those who care for something else more than civilization are the only people by whom civilization is at all likely to be preserved. Those who want heaven most have served earth best. Those who love man less than God do most for man. Let the bomb find you doing well. Wow. I've had this quote, at least a year now, and I sent it out to friends. Again, every time I read it, I see how appropriate it is for our times, how it's so well written. And he's passed on now, and he wrote this, I'm not sure exactly, but it was, I think, the 50s. But isn't that fitting for what we're going through now? Like that's I'm gonna post that link in the description bar. So, let all that's going on in the world find us doing well. And if we're all trying to survive without honorable or merciful means, it doesn't look like a pretty sight. And not all of us are going to do the same thing, but we can live by our own law. And I liked how we put that. And the law for me is the law of which God sets up, which is the law of love and the law of patience. I'm not great at all this, but this is the law I try to follow. You don't have to be perfect at something to honor it by doing the best you know to do. Okay. To get rid of a law because, well, no one can live up to it. No, that's not the direction to go. We should still keep our morals high. Unlike some places where near me, cities have decided to just make everything legal. That'll be an interesting experiment. And what's fascinating is, and I think this relates to what we're talking about, is that we think that if we fix something over here, it's not going to affect something over there. And nothing could be farther from the truth. We live in a country where there seems to be some division about some medical decisions. And the interesting aspect is one part may be saying that the other part's just stupid, and you could be on either side of that. Little do they realize that whatever decisions are made on that are going to affect you eventually. It's kind of like saying, ha ha, your end of the boat is sinking. No, it's a matter of time before some of the effects of this takes place, where then we're all struggling in various ways. I won't go into that. That would add to more fears. But I would say is, do we need to dwell on them? So I love that quote. Feel free to have a cup of tea and to read it again. Strangely enough, I find comfort in movies showing difficulties. We had watched Shadowlands about his finding his wife, and it brings comfort because when people suffer resourcefully or bravely or with love and a higher purpose. The other thing I want to bring up, hold on. I go to the trusty shelf here. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Again, another book I would highly recommend. So high because it fits exactly what we're going through. Exactly. Logotherapy is his therapy, and he developed it way before he went to the prison camps, as you might have suspected. Viktor Frankl was, let's see. I won't say what national he was Jewish, but I think he came from Austria. But I'm sorry if he didn't. I think he came from Austria. In essence, chose to go to the prison camps. He could have left, but he felt that God wanted him to stay there. He's walking by and he's pondering, should I escape or should I leave? He's walking in the sidewalk, and near a synagogue, part of the Torah, some statue of the Torah fell down in front of his feet, and he took that as a sign that he should stay. He goes to the camp. He watches his wife die. He, in the midst of his suffering, felt that man has a choice by how he ascribes meaning to his suffering. And this is about perspective. If you're suffering and you see it as there is no divine help in all of it, you're just a number statistic, whether you get a diagnosis of something or whether you have felt like a statistic in a world of what's going on. But if you don't see that God's in it, and I feel like I'm preachy, but I can't help but share just my perspective and my experience, you will feel a different feeling than if you feel like God's in it. That God is with you and he's given you everything in this experience you need to be able to be strong by being actually weak. That's why running from fears is actually the exact opposite, rather than facing them and feeling them with support and feeling them in a resourceful way. Yeah. And I still can be afraid of things, but I now know that this is the path to take. Incredible story. You can listen to him talk. I guess I can share this. He survives to write the book. He comes to America. He actually says America has a Statue of Liberty, but actually America needs a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. And I think that's accurate. I think that we're so into freedom, liberty, that being responsible with how we treat the rest of the world, how we treat our own citizens, the ability to respond is what responsible means. And instead of acting out of fear and craziness and selfishness, to be able to be responsible for our own actions and to take responsibility. And I guess I'm not trying to get other people to do that. I'm just going to try to start with myself. I'll put this in the link in the description. By the way, I'll try to put some other links, but logotherapy, if you look at it, you go, well, that's what I need now. If I had these principles, I would be able to get through this pretty okay. So we'll kind of have a nice, gentle landing here in the last few minutes of our hour together. So dealing with thoughts, just to realize they come to you. They just come to you. They're logisme, we talked about that, or this assaulted thought. They're not necessarily your thoughts, and you don't have to think them. You don't have to put it on. You don't have to put on a mantle of fear. You don't have to roll around in it or douse in it. You can be free from it just by choosing consciously, I don't want to do this. Now, here's the thing, like any other, I don't like the word addiction, but devotion, to where all of a sudden you're so used to watching the channel you watch, and then you end up with feelings of running to the refrigerator because it's what, actually, strangely enough, I didn't get too hungry watching at food channels. I still think for me, there's better things to watch, but I'm more likely to run to the refrigerator if I see things on the news. But we just have to step outside the trance we're put in by the things we listen to. And I have well-meaning friends, and I'm not even putting down the friends in any way by saying this, on both sides of the spectrum. If they share something that seems to be important, but I still have to step aside and go, okay, how long do I want to think about this? If I give myself a time limit, and not let it get the best of me. The next step, as I've been hinting at, is to ignore it. Okay. If I'm not talking about normal, healthy thoughts, I'm talking about a fearful thought, like, I'm going to die. The world's coming to an end, or I'm really a loser. I've never done anything right. No one loves me. The whole world's bad. The government's all bad. Just on and on and on, but something just so fear-mongering. I'm going to get worse. I had one panic attack. This is never going to go away. Now, I went to a therapist who was really good, and I'll be dramatic. I went to therapy trying to be a good client and not expose too much, but I was beginning to do one little slip of some cognitive distortion. And I said, oh yeah, no, I don't think it'll ever stop. And I went like this, oh my gosh. He says, don't do that. That's just not that's not good. Okay. And I'll never forget it. I might have scared some of you, and I apologize for that, but it made such an impression on me. Like, he says, that's unhelpful. It's like, well, can't we even discuss it? Can I even talk about what I was going to say? He says, I can tell you it wasn't going to be helpful to you. And that stuck with me. I mean, 15, maybe 20 years ago, it stuck with me. Like, just don't do it. Just don't even entertain the thought. Don't let it in the door. There's another book. I asked him, he gave a lot of good tools with anxiety, and it's called Calming Your Child's Anxiety. He says all these tools that he used for adults. He says he gets from this book. We'll talk about them. Look up the emotional yardstick. I have that on this channel. This is where you rate your fears on 1 to 10. It's more like a meter stick. And we catastrophize, saying this is like an 8 or a 9. It's like, okay, then you start to ask yourself, well, what's worse? Well, there's a whole bunch of things worse. In fact, all these things that are giving me either heartburn or heart palpitations, I'm being dramatic here, a lot of them haven't even come to pass yet. And in fact, if I wanted to be really suspicious, I could say, well, it's only what they told me. And if I wanted to be really suspicious, I could discerning, I could say, well, maybe it's all fake news, that there's a bunch of actors hired in Australia to do what they're doing. I don't think so. But what I'm getting at is it's still an illusion. It's not real. Just watching these pixels and sound bites causing me this kind of feeling, like, do I really want to watch that? So I can choose it. And that's why some of this is just self-perpetuating. And I mean this so kindly, but in another book, From Panic to Power, Lucinda Bassett, who has struggled for years, a layperson who does an incredible job of helping people out of anxiety. Her program, I think, is about $300 or $500. But I was struggling some years back with some of this anxiety and was overworking was the biggest thing. I read the book. I got the book for $3 at a used bookstore and read it. It's like, wow. What was useful about it, it was from a lay person's point of view, From Panic to Power. But she says a couple of things. One is that she says this may be the most important statement in the whole book. And she says, brace yourself, you are the cause of your own anxiety. And it's true. The more I live, the more I realize it's not what's out in the world. It's me, whether I choose to participate in it or not. And that's what about ignoring it is. Okay. Another sidestep from this is called outcome independence, meaning you do something and you let go of the outcome. You do these principles, don't try to make yourself not have anxiety. You do it and you then ignore the results. Okay. Happiness, if you look it up, is something that ensues. It's something you can't pursue. If you try to pursue it, it's like a butterfly that flies away. But if you just stop and be quiet, the butterfly or happiness will land on your shoulder just temporarily and then flitter away. That's, I think, a quote from 3 possible authors. I've heard Walt Whitman, Nathaniel Hawthorne, or Henry David Thoreau. Nevertheless, it's true. If you're fighting so hard to save your life, you'll lose it. If you're fighting so hard to not be anxious, it'll happen more. So again, keep perspective. So we just ignore it. And this will work. You do it over and over and over and over. Eventually, you just won't have it. So then this is another great last step. Just think on something else. Just change the channel. Change it. Now, I understand that when you're under a lot of stress and anxiety, it's hard to change that channel. I've been there too. If you get poor sleep, poor diet, really something bad happening, something perceptibly bad like a diagnosis, or you're really worried, you try to do those fun things. It's just still in the background, but what can you do? I surrender and say, God, help me, and just go through the motions. And I think we get better over and over with time. Let's look at the comments here. So J Page 99999 says, hi, Eric. Hi, J Page. What do I do when I get a negative thought and it immediately triggers a fight flight response in the body, an overwhelming feeling, and I'm flooded with stress hormones? How do I dissipate it? Literally, the fearful thought became an uncomfortable feeling. Great question. Thank you for sharing it. So that's why I thought, am I really off subject? The chronic anxiety, but slash pain or symptoms, it's kind of like one and the same. Most of us just get a bolt of lightning of fear and we don't even know there's a thought behind it. And I think that's where the the cognitive behavioral people, bless their hearts, but they may not have everything picture wise, is that things just come to us sometimes and we don't know why we get them. I've worked with chronic pain a lot. A stabbing pain comes to a back, or some very tinnitus just starts, or fainting. Fainting is a good example, really good example, because does a person go, and actually I have thought a little bit thoughts, but no, it's as simple as my wife was told she has atrial fib by a doctor after 15 minutes of looking at her. Well, I know what atrial fib involves, and I'm feeling woozy, and I know I better lie down, so I lay down there right on the floor. Not quickly, but slowly. And they looked at me like, are you okay? It's like, oh, I know. And then, by the way, 15 minutes later, oh, nope, she doesn't have it. Just ignore what we said. And it's like, are you people out of your mind? Anyway, did I think thoughts before that happened? I don't think so. I mean, I might have had the slight idea of my wife could end up with a pacemaker. Her mother, I don't know if her mother has it, but I think her mother has it. My dad had it. It's not a good deal. By the way, neurofeedback seemed to have taken that away. But when you get that wooziness or that feeling just come over you, these all fit. Try not to get fearful. Say to yourself, I'm fine. There's another F. I'm going to be fine because I'm in God's hands. If I die, I die. If I live, I live. But I'm going to trust in God's love. And those who are acquainted with Claire Weeks, where I have a lot of people to send streams to, she was an Australian psychiatrist. She said, feel those feelings. Don't fight them. So don't fight it. Don't focus on it. Now that's hard not to do because that's what anxiety is good at, is gets your attention. Okay. Don't try to figure it out. Now we can't help it. Like, well, wow, am I having a heart attack? Am I having a bad reaction from something I ate? That's normal. But if we're talking here is chronic anxiety, everybody gets anxious. And for most, I won't say most, because a lot of people have chronic anxiety, but normal anxiety is like, I'm afraid to go visit my mother in the hospital because I'm scared. I don't know what the results are going to be. Or I'm afraid of having to go talk to people in public or to share my feelings with someone, that they might get upset with me or whatever. It's the chronic aspect to this. And if you've already been to the doctors, you already know that your heart's just fine, your stomach's just fine. Well, they say fine. Then you can say, I am fine. This is just anxiety. And I had a dear client who was good at this. She said, oh, this is just anxiety. And then she'd keep on her walk. And that's the thing to do. It's like, yeah, I'm feeling anxious. Will I figure out why I'm anxious? Probably not. God, please help me know why I'm anxious. So a little bit of figuring it out is okay. But it's more like praying, God, guide me here. Am I eating too much stimulants? Or Did I not get enough sleep? But chronic anxiety is like healing from it is like turning a cruise ship. You don't just turn around on a dime. It takes a while to figure it out. And here I'm using the word figure it out. But I do think if we over figure it out, it gets worse. So, yes, you just feel it. Trusting the process, trusting God. Same thing here. Um, you identify the feeling. I'm just having a feeling. And I'm going to step aside. Now, ignoring in this case, you don't have to totally ignore it, but you need to not catastrophize it or engage in it. And by the way, this has worked a lot for me. I'd say in the last year, I've had some really strong, stressful reactions. And anything from dealing with it's mainly my mother and dealing with stuff. And to think, oh no, I may not be able to walk to the car to get her there. Or I had to talk with her care management company, who were not the healthiest people in the world. And I had come down there and I started to get back spasms, like just while doing some prayers. And I thought, well, if I walk, I walk. If I can't walk, I can't walk. Again, my mom can barely walk. I shouldn't say that in a bad sense, but I do think that she may struggle with some of the anxiety and fears that I've gotten in somaticization. And it's like, well, if we don't both walk, then fine. Like there are times when she can barely walk and she's older reasons. Well, then here I'm crippled over feeling her feelings. And if and this is when we could go to a supermarket and the what if game, well, what if she falls? Then what? What if she's caught in the women's bathroom? I can't help her. All that drama. And it's like, stop. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to be brave. I don't want to be crippled by fear. We're going a little bit long, but I want to finish with this. And I've been reading a lot, biblical-wise, Bible-wise, on, well, those, we'll say, fearful passages that deal with we'll call the end times for those that are into this. And I think it's okay to read them. And I do think that there's one statement that keeps popping out at me. It says, men's hearts will fail them from fear. And I've known probably this last week, 2 people went to the emergency room with their hearts failing them. No, it was anxiety, but people are really frightened, just really frightened. And that's why I'm doing this peaceful stream. We've got to do something. Well, no, we won't say got to, but if people want to change and learn how not to be anxious, I think this is a great opportunity to learn to do this, because if we don't learn how to get over this now, we'll just suffer in an unresourceful way. And that sounds tough, but I think it's important. It's kind of like being soldier-like. So this is Philippians 4. It says, rejoice in the Lord always. 4:4. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again. Rejoice. Let gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. I'm going to do a little bit of expository thing here. So rejoice in the Lord always, always. It doesn't matter what we're going through. No, always. And then he's going to say it again, rejoice. Now, I sang this as a nice little song years ago, but I have to get that away from my mind, saying, no, this is kind of a command. It's what I'm supposed to do. Let gentleness be evident to all. Now, if I'm fearful, I'm probably not going to be that gentle. Well, I can tell you I wasn't gentle at Costco the other day. I'll have to say that for another story, because it really deals with frustration and anger. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. So I'm praying for specifics and I'm thanking him at the same time. Why not thank him? I heard in the last, since May, this went to a spiritual monastery. This guidance was given to me is be thankful for everything. Write it out. Be serious about it. He says it'll give you perspective. And he said you have everything you need. And so you do this, and then it says, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. Oh, you mean you don't need to figure it out, huh? Will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So if you don't rejoice in the Lord always, you're not going to let your gentleness be evident to all. By the way, that's the exact opposite of we're seeing a lot of people on the internet, even Christian people not having a lot of gentleness. I'm not trying to be judgmental, but it's making me decipher who I want to be near and who I don't want to be near. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything. And that's a spiritual practice. Present your supplications. Present your requests to God. If you do that, then the peace of God will transcend all understanding, will guard your hearts from what? The enemy, from sin, from all this bad stuff. That's what we really need to understand, is that the solutions aren't really outside, but inside. And the more we turn inward, the better. And this should be saved for another live stream. But if you look at people who went through concentration camps, they're the experts. What did they all do? Well, everything was stripped away from their outside. Anything that they could get pleasure from this world, they go inward. And a lot of them say that they had to go inward to survive. Well, it's the kingdom of God is within us. And perhaps we've been so focused on the outward. So slowing down. So the next part, finally, brethren or sisterin or people, whatever is true. And the word in the New King James is whatsoever. Okay. Whatsoever is true. Whatsoever is noble, whatsoever is right, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on such things. That's what we're told to do. Think on those things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me and seen in me, put into practice. The God of peace will be with you. So that's what I'm trying to do. I decided to look up the word whatsoever. What does that mean? Now, it also means whatever. But there's a few things I wanted to emphasize on that. In one dictionary, it could be used as whatever, but it's used after a negative phrase to add emphasis to the idea that is being expressed. So, for instance, he had no respect for authority whatsoever. And so on the positive side, it means if there is any part in any or part or any part whatsoever, like if I say if there is any milk left on the counter whatsoever, it's going to stain it. So it means every little piece of milk or every little aspect, grab it. So you can look it up, and I'll try to put a link in the description part about the whatsoever piece, but it really added emphasis to this, that if there is any anything that's pure whatsoever, any part that's pure, any part that is noble, any part whatsoever that is admirable, any part which is excellent or praiseworthy, think on these things, and true. So that really told me this is the direction I want to go, is to focus on these things. And I am not being harmed at all by not jumping in the swarm of fear mongering, and I got to be in the know, and I got to know how the end of the world is going to end. For those that are really concerned, there's a couple of phrases that I've heard from really sharp people. And I apologize for those that may not be so much into the spiritual aspects, but you're always welcome to just take what's useful and leave the rest. And the spiritual sometimes is more at the end. I thought of doing separate streams, and it's like it's extra work. But I heard one thing is that the end of the world is when I die. So that's what I focus on. Not the end of the world, but the end of the world that I die. Even more specific than that is, and I need a drink of water here. That this person was talking about, I guess I can say his name, Saint Sophrony, who is a contemporary saint who is in England. Elder Zachariah was talking about this. He said Saint Sophrony did not focus on the mark of the beast, and he never scared people with that kind of talk. He focused on the mark of the Christian, which is love, which is baptism, which is the circumcision of our hearts. And there's great value to that, because we're expectantly waiting for Christ, those of us that are Christians. We're not waiting for the Antichrist. And if you're watching things that promote fear and you're driven by fear, you might want to think about that as really, is that something that's really going to be helpful to you? And we could have watched it for, say, like a whole year, and then we expect to get healed in a short amount of time. And I would say, at least from my point of view, if I've had a truckload of negative stuff, and I do hear a lot of negative stuff being a therapist, I have to not focus on that. And it takes me a while to focus on the good, and it takes a while for that. Speaking of which, you guys are probably exhausted, so I'm going to say goodbye. You take care. I wish you well. Feel free to leave comments and concerns or questions, but we'll see you later. You have a great evening or a great day. God bless. Bye-bye.